Whether your beer is in a bottle, can, or glass, kick back and relax. It's Better on Draft.
Welcome, everybody. The Craft Beer News episode for September 15th, 2023. It is Better on Draft. My name is Ken. Thank you so much for joining us. I truly appreciate it. On this Friday night, we do not have a regular episode tonight. We just have a news episode, and we decided we wanted to bring back Jeff to talk a little bit more because he didn't really get a chance to talk too much on the interview with our guest. So, Jeff, welcome. What are you drinking?
Thank you, Ken. I am drinking a double dry hopped double IPA from Transient Artisan Ales, and it is called Mine to Devour with lots of spooky eyes and stuff in it.
And of course, we've got Wendy. Wendy, what are you drinking?
I pulled out the big dogs today. I'm only drinking one because I can't make my camera work. The Ascension Throwy. It is a Imperial Stout aged in maple syrup and bourbon barrels. It's pulling at 13.1%. So I didn't think I needed a second beer today.
I wouldn't think so either. I personally am starting to slowly make my way through, and I've got myself a original milkshake stout, compliments of Rochester Mills Brewing. Got a chance to see Eric Brigham over at the UP Beer Festival last week. So got a chance to catch up with him, get some information, see how he was doing personally, as he has been a massive supporter of the show all the way back since episode 1 in 2015. So we're glad he's still alive, kicking, and he's still working over there. So that's good. I personally just came back from a massive beer tour up in the UP, in which I hit so many amazing breweries, including the UP Beer Festival, which was a beautiful 65 and sunny on the ore docks of Marquette, Michigan. As I tell people, it is a festival you do not want to miss. As you also may notice, Dan is not here today. If you follow us on all of our social medias, that's at Better on Draft. He's out in New Zealand. So he's hanging out in New Zealand. And of course, our editor, Ed, is hanging out on the Lansing Brew Trail this weekend. So he's trying to hit all of the Lansing Brew Trail. So we are all getting out there and drinking beers. For the last 2 weeks, Wendy or Jeff, have you guys gone anywhere, done anything fun, or drank any beers that you want to mention that you liked?
Can't say that I've been to anything special or unique as far as partaking in a beer. I have been working my way through these double dry hopped offerings from Transient Artisan and anything I can find from Arvon Brewing in Grand Rapids, and just enjoying those at home for the most part.
I got the chance to brunch at Batch on Sunday, and I think it was called a Mangoes of Madness. Holy crap, was that good. That was delicious. And I will be spending some time there this weekend for their Oktoberfest. I'm pretty excited about that.
If you really, really want to make your mouths drool, Batch Brewing on Facebook posts so many great food photos of what they're cooking over there. So go give them a follow on Facebook. We are live on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook. It's all at Better on Draft. You can interact with us. Like Riverathon says that it's fest beer season, which if you went to the beer festival like I did, there were so many Martins, Oktoberfests, different beers of the season to drink. So I was definitely in heaven. Gary's joined us in the chat as well over on Facebook. But I want to talk a little bit today to ask you guys, we're talking about travel, going to breweries and spending money. I did get from the website, AmericanCraftBeer.com, a little bit of information regarding how much it is costing for a case of beer right now. And it is the cheapest for a case of beer. And I'm guessing this is your standard Bud Light, Miller Light cases of beer. We're not talking about crazy expensive, a 4-pack of worldwide stouts. And the cheapest beer is over in Illinois, while the most expensive, of course, is in Alaska. My question to you guys, as beer prices have gone up from supply chain issues to ingredients to manufacturing to literally every single part of the world of beer, prices have gone up, causing us to pay a little bit more. Do you drink less? Do you care much about the prices when you're looking at a specific beer to drink? Or do you, even with the old adage of look at price per ABV? Um, how do you go about spending your hard-earned money at the bar right now? We'll start with Jeff.
I would say I have decreased my consumption, but that may be not so much economics as it is just life changing. Becoming a married man in the last year and having a family to take care of and all of that stuff. But yeah, it is an expensive habit if you want to make it a regular thing. And I am a big fan of trying beers out at different venues, but also trying single beers at liquor stores or beer stores. So instead of getting like a 6 pack of the same beer or a 6 pack or a 12 pack of the same beer, I often get 6 singles, and they'll often have a discount if you get 6 or more at a time. So yeah, it has definitely affected how often I'm willing to splurge for a beer. And I do check prices as I'm buying them, but I don't let the prices stop me necessarily. But it may inhibit whether I have that extra beer that I'm craving before leaving or returning home.
Before I ask Wendy, I went to Keweenaw Brewing, and if you've never been to Keweenaw Brewing before, I was sticker shocked, but the complete opposite way. As a pint of any beer there, and I mean any beer, was 350. And when I saw this, I did like a double take. I didn't necessarily know it. Like I knew I was going there for a beer. So when you're for me, like price didn't matter because I wasn't going for anything rare or crazy, and which they don't have there. Um, and I remember looking at the photo before I'm going to post it on the social media, and I just see the price, and I'm like, am I seeing that right? And it was 350, and I got a pint. Julia, my fiance, got a pint, and the two of us were like, it was like $7. And I'm like, what do you mean $7? Like, it just blew my mind to see something that cheap that I probably would have spent more time drinking over there. But Wendy, what about you? Like, are you a little bit more cost conscious when you're going to bars or breweries compared to say 2019?
Oh, it's definitely a lot more expensive now. I don't, I guess I don't buy as much at the store, though I will say I tend to also go to stores that I can buy singles so that I can try a bunch of different stuff. The last time I went, I actually was joking with the guy at the counter that I'm like, no, I have to spend less than $100. And I did, but it was literally like $75 and it wasn't even a full case of beer. So I guess it depends on what's going on, whether I buy a lot of stuff. If there's a lot of new stuff that came out that particular time, I ran into Wild Works. So because we don't get it here very often, I wanted to make sure that I picked that up. I don't think I'm not out as much drinking because of the prices, though. I think it's more just like Jeff said, it's life. My free time has been cut drastically in the last few weeks. So if I'm going someplace, I'm going to make sure that it's someplace that I can eat. And I'm not brewery hopping as much as I used to be able to.
Yeah, I think for me, I don't look at as much. I used to. I will say, I will admit it. I don't know if you guys have ever done it, but I used to be a ABV per dollar type of person. Like, I'm there to get not necessarily the cheapest drunk, but the most efficient drunk. And sometimes it's getting a specific beer or going to booze like liquor, spirits. So for me, I used to be like, oh, I can't tell you how many times I used to do like 2 Four Locos in a night, and that was my night because I'm like, I can get drunk on $5 and have a good old time. Um, Now for me, however, the price of beer obviously I've noticed has gone up. I know a lot of brewers are talking about, they feel bad having to raise the prices, but in the same token, like you can't be in the business to lose money. Like you have to make money in some sense, and the only way to make money is to raise the prices a little bit. Uh, so I understand where they're coming from. I understand that we have to, eat those costs as well. But for me, I've noticed while I'm out, I don't necessarily go for that second beer anymore.
Mhm.
I'm usually a one and done kind of person. Normally I would go and drink, 2 pints somewhere, or if I'm drinking, say, watching a Lions game at Buffalo Wild Wings, like I'd have a lot more than I normally would. And now it's just like I almost just kind of want a soda. Like I don't know if maybe I'm tired of beer, and would quite possible for doing the show for almost 8 years now, 7 years and 50 weeks. Uh, so maybe that's the thing. But in the same token, like I'm a creature of habit, and sometimes I just like I don't like the buzz anymore. I also don't like the mornings after the buzz.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I think
that's the worst part.
I
For
think
me-
for me, yeah, for me, saving money on um going out is necessarily one thing, but not wanting to feel like trash the next day or the next 2 days from drinking, to where I guess I'm agreeing with the both of you. Life choices have made me choose differently when it comes to beer.
And for me, it's also age. Like I'm 50 now, drinking in my 20s and 30s. I was up for the parties, going to concerts, and 2, 3 in the morning. I'm a big Gotta Buy Voices fans. Their concerts would last for 4 hours until 2 in the morning, and that was great when I was 20 or early 30s. But now at 50, it's like 2 beers in, and I'm ready for my nap on the couch. So it's just a fact of life.
I know I'm going to a show after this too, and I'm dreading like having to drive out to Ann Arbor to go see a show and then drive back.
Oh my gosh. You're dreading driving to Ann Arbor from Ypsilanti?
Yes, the whole 10 minutes.
Oh, Ken got old overnight.
I did.
Bell's is
I'm
in our backyard, and we've had a couple concerts that we were going to go to, and then we get to the night of, and it's kind of like, I don't think we can do it tonight.
Oh, I hear that.
I did.
If I have too many things in one night, I can't. I just like it overloads and I just shut down and I'm like, nope, can't do it anymore. Too many things.
I
We
did
do
the
have-
proper sorry, I keep interrupting you guys. I was gonna say I did the proper pop punk back-to-backs over in Michigan with the not the Simple Plan show with Sum 41 and Offspring, and then the night before it was like Newfound Glory and the Starting Line and a few others. And I'm just like, I don't know how I used to be able to do it, but those were also Freedom Hill and Pine Knob. So those are a little bit of hikes for me. There is no easy way to get from Pine Knob to my place at Ypsilanti without just taking just side streets the entire way.
Mhm.
There's no easy way to get to Pine Knob from anywhere except Pine Knob.
That's true.
And on concert nights, they probably say the same thing.
I wouldn't be surprised. But Wendy, what did you want to talk about today?
So I feel like it's kind of a slow beer news week. I did find an article about solar powered beer. Apparently, there is a brewery in England. One Planet Brewing in Surrey is set to launch its first 100% solar powered beer. It's a 5.5% hazy IPA that they're initially going to be selling in kegs, but will be available in a limited supply of cans come October. They're also using homegrown hops whenever possible. Apparently, they have hops that are within a mile of the brewery, so they're trying to use as fresh as possible. They're looking to distribute to selected partners where it can be done in a sustainable way, by using reusable packaging and an electric dray. I don't know what that is. I meant to look it up before the show as soon as possible. Their distribution is only going to be offered within a 30-mile radius of the brewery. So Hogsback is the brewery that is their managing investor. The managing director, Rupert Thompson, said their investment to launch One Planet is an evolution of the ambitious sustainability agenda that has been fundamental to Hogsback from the outset, and we are proud to have been the founding investor behind this new venture. It is, we believe, the first UK brewery to make the commitment to brew using only solar power generated on site. We are working hard on the next steps to take One Planet Brewing beers to as close to zero carbon as we practically can for all the elements that we can control with a minimum of offsetting, ideally within the next year. So I found this article interesting because we do have a number of breweries that we have talked with over the past year that have a lot of investment in sustainability measures. And I was just wondering what your guys' take is on it. Are you interested in supporting breweries that are looking to make themselves more sustainable? Does that play a factor in choosing what you purchase?
For me, not really. This isn't one of the things that really pique my interest when it comes to why I do or don't support a brewery. Simply because the baseline is just that. It's just regular, use your power, use your water, do everything as normal as it was, say 15, 20 years ago when brewing beer. So I do appreciate when there are these types of programs that allow the brewery to act a lot better for Mother Nature. As Todd Parker on Facebook says, Dark Horse and Arbor are both solar and have been for years. So we do have some here in Michigan, but it doesn't move my needle personally to go to that brewery or buy that beer because of their commitment. Like, if anything, it should be the standard. Like, a lot of people should have these types of commitments of working, but within the brewery and the brewery world, like, a lot of them already do other types of recycling from spent grain, from power, from like capturing carbon. So a lot of these breweries already do it. So I would probably be against one that thumbed their nose at it. But I wouldn't necessarily be pro one over the other.
Yeah, I'd agree with Ken. I wouldn't seek out a brewery because they are using solar power or other sustainable methods, but I definitely would give them a thumbs up. And if I like their beer, I'd feel better and maybe a little more loyal to them. Over time, it's hard to say. It may just be the economical thing to do, the long-term economical thing to do. It probably won't be done more increasingly because it is the right thing to do. It'll be because energy is expensive. And if you can find a more sustainable, cheaper way to do it that doesn't also harm the planet, then I think people are going to do that for as much for economic reasons as they are for social or the greater good.
With my volunteer background, I tend to find that I kind of always paid a little more attention to that thing. Recently, though, with the classes that I've been taking at school, I feel kind of like Clueless, where she's like, ugly psych or college psych rears its ugly head. But I'm in an environmental science class right now, and I think my teacher would be really happy to know that it really has made me think about what my carbon footprint is in the world again. It's been years since I've taken a look at that, and I did realize that when it comes to choosing a beer, if I'm standing in front of a cooler and there's 7 or 8 different beers that I've all had, I'm going to pick the Alaskan Brewing or the Sierra Nevada Brewing beer first because I know of the sustainability efforts that they put into their beer. So I think it does impact me in a way. Again, if it wasn't good beer, I probably wouldn't. But it does in a way affect me. So I was just curious as to what you guys think. I agree that I think this trend is going to increase, that we'll see more breweries doing that kind of thing. I think a lot of them already do, though. I think that's just the nature of the business, that a lot of the brewers and the people who own breweries are a lot more conscientious about what they're putting out in the world.
Yeah, I think, well, one, you brought up the point, which is really good, that you're still going to drink the beer that you like. You're not going to buy a beer. You're not going to go out of your way to buy a quote unquote bad beer. We're not calling any beer bad, but a quote unquote bad beer, just because they have sustainability programs. I think a lot of these breweries do have their own sustainability programs. Each one just does something a little bit different, but a lot of them might not necessarily have the capabilities. They might not own the property that they're on, therefore they can't install solar panels without like going through their the owner of the building. And of course then they don't own the solar panels, the owner of the building owns the solar panels. So there are a lot of things, because I don't want to discredit a brewery when it's kind of out of their control. So
Sure.
that's why I think that if it's a brewery that kind of thumbs their nose at it and purposefully like brags about it because they don't believe in recycling and reuse and, dealing with the spent grain and that kind of things. Like when we had Alaskan on just a little bit ago, and they were talking about all the things that they have to do, but when they talked about spent grain and how they don't have the capabilities of donating because they don't have the agriculture to feed for spent grain up there. So there's ways to, I think, do well for the environment, that a lot of breweries do. And I think they should promote that. I think a lot of breweries should be able to be like, this is what we do. This is how we have, how we either become not carbon negative, but lower our carbon footprint. This is where we donate our stuff like that. Those are the kinds of things that I love looking at, however, at a brewery. Like tell me what you do for your community.
Yep.
Because I see the future breweries and these beer pubs at, being the center of these communities. So, that's what I want to see. I don't make the decision to go because they do it, but I want them to brag. There are times where I want them to brag. I'm trying to think of the gentleman that we had on the show from Michigan State when he talked about agriculture within the craft beer industry and how the effects that each has on each other, the crops having on the beer, and then the beer production having back within the community from spent grain, from CO2 emissions. I really wish I remember his name, and I can't. Oh my gosh, it's bothering me. I'll figure it out before we go off the air. But on Twitch, Muttbone asked me what happened to me. Did your UP Beer Fest instantly make this show old? So we did a lot of walking. We went to a lot of waterfalls, a lot of hiking trails, and I'm not necessarily in the best shape in the world. So along with the drinking, the terrible diet when you're on the road and you're eating, and of course there's not really much choices when you're in the UP except for like, the local diners, unless you're in a big city. And those diners are a lot of burger and fry joints. So pasties, pasties.
Yeah.
I do that every time. Pasties, like these are the kinds of things. Like we went to East Channel, and of course they had like a wood-fired pizza stove there, so we had to get the wood-fired pizza. And you're eating snacks with all the driving on the road. Yeah, so I still haven't fully recovered. I never gave myself like a day or two. Like I got home and then I worked the next day. So I think that's why I'm feeling a little bit old right now. But I also don't see myself as I used to, like going to On the Rocks or something until 2 a.m, closing the bar and singing karaoke all night. Gary says, and cherry pie. I'm not a big sweets guy. Are you guys sweets guys? Sweets people?
I like ice cream and I like some candy, but I don't like sweets with my beer.
Do you like sweets in your beer, like a milkshake stout or adjuncty chocolate, peanut butter, caramel?
Stout's about the only time I would want like some chocolatey notes or any kind of a sweet flavor to it. The lactose milkshake IPAs There have been a couple I think are okay, but by and large, I'm not drawn to those.
From our friend
Hi.
in New Zealand, Wendy is. Our friend in New Zealand, Dan, says that you guys are old. That is true. I am getting old here. Wendy, you're a sweets person. What are
Oh,
some
yeah.
of your favorite sweets?
I actually chose I've given up a lot of sweets so that I can continue drinking beer. So I really like it when my beer is sweet. That way, like I'm a big fan. I'm pretty sure I pulled out this throwy so that Dan can't pick about on me about all the adjuncts that are in it. Though I don't think just barrel maple syrup aged is a big deal, but um anytime I bring in something with more than one ingredient in the title, he likes to joke with me.
I think 2 is the limit. 2 is okay. When you get to
Yeah, I don't care.
3, that's also fair too. I mean, it's Dan.
I like it all. I like it sweet. I like it to taste. If you're telling me it's going to be a German chocolate cake, I want to be able to taste all the parts of the German chocolate cake. So I don't care how many
Maybe,
many things you put in there.
maybe I just haven't
Doesn't
had the good sweet beers because usually they just leave something on my tongue, like a little like a syrupy residue or something. It's just the mouthfeel of too much sweet from my beer. It just becomes a little too much for me.
There
it
are
could be.
some
I get that.
breweries that just do adjuncts wrong. Like it's just every time you taste it, it tastes like the
Cake.
theory of that adjunct. Like it tastes like the theory of chocolate. Like you kind of like rubbed some peanut butter on the sides of the tank before you made it. But there are some, like, if it tastes really, really good, but it's not too overly sweet. Like I can't do sugary sweet. That's for me what I don't like about sweets is when they're sugary sweet. Which are most sweets, but I like a little bit. So bland, white, vanilla ice cream. Like I had my first vanilla ice cream cone in probably a decade. When I was on my trip in the UP, and I'm like, I don't want sprinkles, I don't want fudge, I don't want chalk. No, the person looked at me like, do you want anything out? I'm like, no, just I want a scoop of ice cream. Leave me
Oh,
alone.
that's so boring. um, I am a person though who totally believes that cake is a vessel for frosting to be put in your mouth. Like
Hmm.
there's no other reason to have cake than for the frosting. I also would prefer ice cream over cake. So
I was that person at the party where I would like knife off most of the frosting on the top of a cake and just give me for
you're my favorite
brownies.
people because then I can take your frosting.
Oh, go for it. Yeah. Absolutely. I don't like pumpkin pie, but I don't want like Cool Whip on it or anything like that. Like I just want a little bit of pumpkin pie and that's it.
Oh,
I'm very
I
I'm
never
very
said.
very picky when it comes to my sweets. My family all knows my little ticks. Like I want a brownie, but I don't want anything inside the brownie or anything on top of the brownie. I just want a basic ass brownie.
Hmm.
Just brownie mix. That's it. That's it.
Right. You throw
Um,
nuts in there, and that throws the texture off.
Oh,
it
nuts should
throws
not be baked goods.
I agree. Totally agree.
well, this is a craft beer podcast, and this is the craft beer news segment, and we've got one more article to go over. And I know I kind of talked about the UP Beer Festival, but Jeff, what did you want to talk about today?
So I found an article recently by Axios from a writer out in Denver about a decline in the craft beer festival. And they go on to acknowledge that some of the beer festivals are shrinking. They said Great American Beer Fest last year sold 20,000 less tickets, had 300 fewer breweries involved in the event. A couple of regional Colorado longtime brew fests have gone on pause and canceled their events for 2023. Another one in Oregon uh, pulled up stakes at least temporarily this year. And so as those of you that have gone to some beer fest more recently than I have, I'm wondering, uh, have you noticed a change in the beer festivals? Obviously there was a disruption with the pandemic, but even going back farther than that, do you sense that things are changing when it comes to not just people's interest in beer festivals, but people's interest in craft beer overall.
Wendy.
I'll start. So I'm on, right? So I think that this article isn't giving festivals a fair shake yet. I think people are still leery about what they're doing and traveling not as much as they used to. So I don't think that people are going out as often as they were, and they're being a little bit pickier about which events they choose to go to. And I think it's also not taking into account the fact that breweries took a really hard hit during COVID, and it might not be in their budget to go to a festival in Colorado or a festival out of state. They're just starting to come back out to festivals in their own states. So I think it's still too early to say that there's going to be a huge decline 100%. I think eventually they will start to come back. People are going to want to do it. Another thing that I don't know that this event is taking into consideration is the fact that things cost so much right now. You know, we're looking at the UAW strike. There's the writer's strike in Hollywood. Like, all these things are happening that are affecting our bottom line and what money we have coming in. I think people are paying a lot more attention about what money they're putting out.
Yeah, so Dan in the chat, both him and I went to GABF last year, and they did sell out, but if I'm not mistaken, it was a much smaller room, smaller venue for the system. So I think that's why, like, of course, if you offer less tickets and you sell out, sure, you sold out, but yes, you're selling less. For me, going to these festivals, like, I've noticed significantly, even the festivals that are now only one day, like the Fall Beer Fest, the Spring Beer Fest, definitely less breweries are attending, less people are there. I think the guild is very obvious. I remember the days when these festivals would sell out, and you were getting tickets from scalpers and you were paying a premium to go, because both, like, Fridays usually didn't sell out, but Saturdays always sold out. I remember one year waiting in line with friends, and one person didn't have a ticket, and she wound up getting in just under a DD ticket just so she could at least hang out with us. And they were selling like enthusiast memberships just to try to get people to get in there with the tickets. So there's beer festivals, like there's in Michigan, I think there's 4 beer festivals today and tomorrow. Monroe's got a beer festival. I'm trying to look at it here. Centerline's got a beer festival. Wyandott's got a beer festival. And I feel like there was one more on this list that I just do not see. But of course, the Brewed in Michigan, Milford, is this weekend too. So yeah, there are plenty of beer festivals going on. I think they're a lot smaller. For our beer fest, the Better on Draft Beer Festival, which is over on October 7th at Jimmy John's Field, the Brew and Fall Beer Fest. Come see us. We will be there. These festivals, big and small, I think are not necessarily selling out as much as they used to. Again, these breweries also don't have the ability to send people everywhere anymore. Like, that's where a lot of money is, because why would you send product without sending someone to talk about it? You want them, you want that person to be there to sell it. And if they're busy just trying to keep tap handles at bars and sell out shelf space at, say, Zatuna Liquor in Rochester Hills, just south of F59 on Rochester Road, they don't have time to go to these festivals. So, yeah, I think beer festivals, they'll always be there. I think everybody wants to get out now. But I think there's also a point where there might be too many smaller festivals where people are picking and choosing instead of just going out weekly. So I know I talked in like a big old circle, but that's my theory on the festivals. The UP Festival, there was a lot of people there, but there was still, I think, I think they said there was like still almost 1,000 tickets before the lines opened, so there was still plenty of room for other people to be there.
Have you ever tried a beer or a brewery at a beer fest and then made a point to go visit that brewery that was, let's say, now more than an hour away because you tried their beer at a beer fest?
Toppling Goliath. I went
Okay.
to. I drove 14 hours, so 16 hours actually.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, my wife
yeah,
and I
I
were there just a
definitely
couple months
have.
ago.
I don't recall the last time that I have purposefully driven to a brewery more than an hour away just for their beer. I have gone to breweries for other reasons, like going to Highway Brewing on the way up to the UP. Or hey, I'm in Kalamazoo for X, Y, and Z. Let's go to Presidential Brewing, or let's go to Bell's or something like that. But it has been there's I don't think there's ever been a beer that's got me to say, oh man, I need to go to this place today.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Taxman.
Well, I'll be
Taxman's
honest.
another brewery.
For you?
Taxman's another brewery that we went to. We went to a festival that they put on themselves specifically because we had them at a festival in Indiana.
Gary mentions on the Facebook page, my thing about festivals, who's pouring or not pouring. Here in Michigan, there is the law where a lot of those people cannot pour their own beer, and therefore they have to like be set aside. They have to kind of hang out to the side. So there are these rules about like not necessarily, yeah, well, it depends on the license too. But most of the time when you're going to one of these festivals, it's usually a volunteer pouring. You go to the Zoo Brew, it's a zoo volunteer pouring. You go to even GABF, it's all mostly volunteers pouring at GABF while everyone else is kind of moseying around or hanging around their booth. But like, yeah, I love getting to know the people that make the beer. But again, I've been racking my brain trying to figure out of a brewery that I made a point to go to because I've had their beer or even had their beer at a festival. Like for me, visiting a brewery is almost secondary now to travel.
Yeah. Yeah. If I'm there, I'll look for the craft brewers or the craft breweries, but I don't go there because of the craft breweries. But if it's there or it's on the way, I definitely want to stop if there's time. I honestly haven't been to a craft beer festival since the pandemic. I spent nearly 20 years in Indianapolis, volunteered at many of the microbrew festivals that were held there in Indianapolis. And fortunately for me, for a long time, they were a mile walk from my house. So I didn't have to worry about, getting home because I could always stumble home. But yeah, with it, Beer Fest being sometimes an hour or more away, it is harder for me to get to them now. But there was a time, like the one person said, if the right breweries were pouring, I definitely made a more concerted effort to get there. Like back before Three Floyds was everywhere. If Three Floyds showed up at a beer fest, I was like, I want to make a point to go to that beer fest. So there's definitely some breweries that are a little out of the way that if they were at a beer fest near me or within a reasonable drive, I would consider going a little stronger.
Bats McGee on Twitch said, I discovered Clag in Sandusky, Ohio at Nucleate this year and ended up driving there over Labor Day weekend. I've been to breweries for beer releases, as Gary kind of mentions on her Facebook page. Like, yeah, I've gone for a beer release to go pick up bottles or an allotment. Like I've been to No Rules Day, or I've been to one of the many Dragon's Milk release days. So I've been to breweries for a specific beer, but I don't think I've ever gone backwards where because of a beer I've gone to a brewery. Bone also went to I gotta get to Hoppin' Frog. That we had Hoppin' Frog on the show 6 years ago on like a Sunday afternoon show, and like the Turbo Shandies were the lowest ABV beers, and those were still 4 or 6.5, 7%. Yeah, they definitely do some damage out there. But you haven't been to a beer festival since the pandemic. Is that just life or any other reasons?
Yeah, mostly life. I was a little hesitant when they first started reappearing in 2021, and then life definitely changed for me. So they became a little less important. But there's been beer fest where somebody did tap a very unique or special beer just for that fest, and that was good. But sometimes that's late in the day, and your taste buds are kind of shot at that point. And I could see, given what article you presented earlier, Ken, is like, I could see why this is not a good investment for some of the breweries, especially the ones that are smaller or struggling with cash, because you are basically outlaying cost with nothing coming back in. And it's probably a better investment to invest in social media or your on-site experience, and obviously your other marketing efforts, than having somebody that's like 4 hours into a beer fest stumbling up to your booth and saying, "Oh, yep, that was good. If I tasted any of it, then maybe I'll remember you tomorrow. Who knows?"
Yeah, I also don't. I was gonna say I haven't even told you the last. I honestly couldn't tell you most of the beers I had at the UP Beer Festival. Like, I don't use Untapped anymore. I don't check them in. I don't check them off. Like, if it's a beer that I liked, I'll commit it to memory. But other than that, yeah, I'm just there for the party now.
Mhm.
I'm the complete opposite. So I travel to try beer. So a lot of my travels include going to different breweries. And I have a list of breweries that I have tried their beer and really want to go there. I can think of a handful of Michigan breweries that I've tried at festivals. And it's not necessarily a single beer, it's that I liked a couple of beers that I tried from them, or I really enjoyed talking with the people that were there. Because at least at the Michigan Brewers Guild festivals, they bring people in that know their brewery. So you get to talk to them and get kind of a feel for what their brewery is like, and it makes me want to go visit them. What was the one with all the um with the ice cream beers? There were a couple of us that picked it as our favorite beer of the festival.
At
I
the
can't remember
summer
what the
beer,
name of
was
it
it
is off the
wasn't it
top of my head.
Niles? Wasn't
Yes.
it
So Niles
Niles?
Brewing, I totally want to go there because I really enjoyed the beers that I tried there. Fetch Brewing, I made a specific stop there on a trip because I had their beer and I liked them at the festival. Like, I can think of a handful of breweries like that. Um, and not necessarily at a festival, but sometimes I've tried beers at a share that somebody's brought back that put that on my short list of breweries I want to travel to. And usually, if I pick a city that I want to go to, it's because there's a brewery that I've had that I really liked and I wanted to visit. So then I look at what breweries are around there to make that trip happen.
Mm-hmm.
The closest that I've finally come up with is Reed City. Every single beer I've had at Reed City has been a banger. Beers that I've loved, their peanut butter beer, like every time they bring it and they see me, they're like, "Oh, here we go." Like, they know that's what I'm coming for. So when I went to Big Rapids in February of this year, I made it a point to go the extra 15 minutes north to Reed City to have some Reed City beers. So that's like the closest you're going to see me probably get to somewhere. But again, I didn't go up to Reed City just to have Reed City beers. I was going to Big Rapids, and Reed City, for those who don't know, is like 15 minutes north on 131 or 31, one of the two.
131, most likely. If it's north of Big Rapids, yeah, it'd be 131 because
Yeah.
we go that way for taking our daughter to Marquette for school.
I have nothing else to add to that.
I will say that's how we ended up at Toppling Goliath. We were on our way to Rochester, Minnesota, and we'd passed through the Field of Dreams in Iowa, and it was kind of in between those two endpoints. So that's how we got through there at the end of June this past year, and definitely worth a stop because I've enjoyed a lot of their double dry hop beers for years too. So it was definitely worth checking out there.
No, I planned a whole trip based on going to Toppling Goliath.
I love that. I love that because 10, 15 years ago, I probably would have done that, but not today. Not today.
Well, that is going to do it for the craft beer news segment. Once again, no regular episode today. We will be back next week. So we hope you have a great weekend. Stay safe. And no matter what you think of your beer, we think it's better on draft. Have a good night.
Cheers.
Oh, almost hit leave studio again.